Streaming through the digital night, Jim Muscle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown, UFOs and the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets, it's his addiction, debating, discussing with his loyal crew, cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.
Oh shit. Welcome back, y'all, to another episode. Welcome. Shadows, Hendrix. Welcome. That R&B one always fucking gets me. Oh, it's a meme. Yes. This evening, what are we talking about? Trudeau tries to censor Canada. Fuck. I mean, we shouldn't have to fucking cover this shit. I'd rather just talk about metaphysical things, aliens, fucking souls, and whatnot. What's up, dude? What's up, everybody? I just don't want to even fuck talk about this, but I live in Canada, and this fucking idiot, man, like, is going to interfere with everything that I'm trying to do here. Everyone's trying to do right on the internet in Canada. NATO bringing us to the brink of war. Fuck, another one. And then behind the veil, UFOs in the New World. That's another. We'll dive into some more interesting stuff later on. Yeah. I have not, actually. What's that to do? Iron Sports video. Link in the chat, man. I'll pull it up. But yes, for people watching these VODs, thank you. I see you still watching these VODs. God bless you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. These VODs are going to be available on YouTube so long as they don't get flagged. So you can find a collection of these VODs on the YouTube channel link, whatever you find my link tree. You can check them out there. I'm still looking for an editor. Again, thank you for everybody reaching out to me on Twitter. Just fucking lot of you. So I was sifting through all the messages and trying to find somebody who I think would fit best. So I'll be getting clips and whatnot of these up soon. And then hopefully we can kind of get some more people in here on the conversation. But yeah, let's get into it. Why not? Yeah. Jesus, is that what it is? God damn it. We'll pull up what I'm talking about here. This is the Iran video. Germany versus Iran 2004. National anthems. What is this now? Give Nazi salutes during the German national anthem. Oh, fuck. Jesus Christ. Fucking roasting them, huh? God damn. That's dirty. That's fucking dirty. Speaking of Nazis, it's a good tie-in actually to Justin. Oh, thank you. God bless. Thank you. Speaking of Nazis, speaking of this fucking idiot that brought a literal Nazi into the Canadian Parliament, I don't, like, we must be living in a simulation. That's the only conclusion I really have come to now, that this guy is still around. Just the amount of stupid shit that he's done. I think everybody's just so exhausted. They're just like, fuck, not again. Like, I don't want to deal with this idiot again. I just hope if we have our next election and he wins, I'm probably going to consider moving into the fucking country. I don't know what I'll do, but we'll find some way. Liberals' online hate bill contains $20,000 fines for speech and life imprisonment for hate crimes. Now, the stipulation here is what qualifies for hate speech and hate crimes. And essentially, the verbiage is that they can kind of decide any which way they want what they consider to be hate speech and hate crimes. So if you're online saying fuck Trudeau, you're a cock, right? Or razzing the Liberal Party for how compromised they are, right? In bed with Klaus Schwab and the globalists, and they could technically come after you and accuse you of some kind of bullshit fucking hate crime. I don't know. Whatever the deal is, you misidentify somebody in the party, you're done. I mean, who can survive a $70,000 fine? Not a lot of fucking people. No middle class people can, really. And then the hate crimes, I mean, if it goes farther than that. So, yeah, very interesting. Yeah. That's probably next year, although people have been calling for this shit ASAP. So, yeah. Shadows, it's hard to say. I mean, I was definitely. I would say I'm not a very politically inclined person, really. Like, I think I'm just kind of like whatever works. But I would definitely be much more liberal leaning. I'd say, like, you know, not like fundamentally like religious or dogmatically religious, or I'm pretty open minded. But this guy fucking, yeah. So a lot of people were behind him. His father too was very popular here in Canada. And the Liberals in Canada have been very popular. There have been a couple Liberal leaders like Jacques Chrétien that were pretty good, that made a lot of people kind of get behind the party. And so then he kind of just ran on the coattails of all that hype. And he's a good looking guy, I guess. But people have told me. And that also helped. And he baited me and others that he was going to legalize marijuana. And I said, fuck, all right. So, yeah, unfortunately. But, yeah. Yeah, I would say the same, man. I'm definitely much more centralist. I don't like, there's an element of like very hardline conservative people. They're very like fundamental, like Christians, like very fundamentalist almost. And Then you start getting in. It's great. It's like, yeah, I respect everybody's privacy. Don't tread on me. That's more like libertarian. But then they start getting into like, yeah, and then the Bible said like, gay people should be stoned to death. And it's like, okay. And it's a fine line, right? Like, and I'm like, no. So I would just definitely lean far more on the left, I think, naturally. But at the end of the day, I think lately it's just been, I just don't like idiots. I mean, you can argue from both ideologies fairly well, right? If you're not an idiot, but I just don't like fucking idiots. And he's just a genuine idiot. And I've had inside information into just how fucking much of an idiot he is. So anyway, yeah. But yeah, Anti-Waffen Division. And notice a National Socialist Resistance Front is an international far-right extremist and neo-Nazi terrorist network. 13 in the southern United States. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Interesting. American Party basically pulled a Vermin Supreme and trying to make Canada part of the US. Goddamn. Wouldn't take a lot of work right now, man, honestly, to do that, probably. There's a lot of people fed up with the way things are going here. Neo-fascism. I don't know how people would ever justify even like associating themselves with that movement. Like just the genocide that they committed. Like you'd have to be, it's just in a complete like, you use the R word here on Twitch, something like that. Idiot. Absolute idiot. To just, I don't know. It's just fucking, I do know. It's just fucking appalling. Right. Yeah. That's exactly it. You don't ever be, Shadow, you don't ever be dogmatic, right? You should always be able to look at your beliefs objectively. Like, you should be able to take a step back from what you believe and be able to analyze it and look at it with not a whole lot of emotion and be like, yeah, okay, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And people get far too invested in some of these ideologies, and then that holds them back from, I think, seeing the truth. Ultimately, I think what I'm after, being the idealist that I am, is just trying to find the best way for things to work like that we possibly can. And I think, honestly, from what I've listened to from much more knowledgeable people than myself, the way things have been running here have not been perfect. There's been a lot of fucking problems, and capitalist society has its serious fucking pitfalls, and there's a lot of issues involved with that, like corruption, especially in our democracies. But I think for the most part, things have worked pretty well. I don't think like overhauling everything and then being like, I'm a communist is going to fucking work, personally. Although I'd love to live in like peace and love with everybody and just share everything, but I know for a large percentage of the population that's not going to work. So to kind of keep them in line, this whole capitalist system, I think, is probably the best way to keep things chugging along, keep the peace, I guess. But yeah, back when separatism was big talk, was the United Provinces would join the U.S. if separating were to happen. We're right beside Maine. Maine was a very kind of libertarian state. I like Mainers. You know, I'm here in New Brunswick, for people that don't know, in Canada, Eastern Canada. So I dig Maine. Maine's a pretty radical state. Egos can let people's belief. Absolutely, man. That's exactly it. Yeah, and it's in how people construct it too, right? There's definitely something about constructing a healthy ego. I'm not big on like the Eastern belief systems of dissolve the ego. If it's too much of a problem, maybe. But the ego, to some degree, is what makes people interesting. We're all different. We all have our characters that we develop, right? But I think it's constructing it properly. And it's the complicated nature of intelligence and just of people in general and consciousness. So constructing a good character, right? And there's probably more to it than we're really consciously aware of, right? It's picking and choosing the right things to do, not doing the wrong things, and orienting yourself properly. But yeah, people sometimes just like to get into groups to feel comfortable, and then they get very emotionally involved with that, and they have a very hard time detaching from those belief systems because they kind of imbued them into their character, and it can be a serious issue. And then those people go to war with one another, and then that creates a lot of problems. And that's been a lot of problems, I think, in the world in the last actually since the beginning of time, probably, really. Sports are always really interesting. You see that in sports, in like hardcore sports people. They kind of get into this, they become like very tribalistic. It's very interesting. They serve humanity very well, though. Yeah, it can be very problematic. It can be very interesting too, though. I would say the ego is just it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think it's a part of people's character, and I love everyone's character. Like, growing up playing video games like World of Warcraft, I loved more than anything just encountering other people in the world and talking with them, or seeing what they're wearing, or later on in the game their transmogs and stuff, and how they hold themselves and what they do. And I love seeing people express themselves. And one way you can express yourself is kind of through your ego, I think, and how you've developed your character. And I find that stuff very interesting, but it can be very problematic if you haven't developed your character very well, and then the ego becomes a very toxic thing that holds you back from developing. It's very complicated stuff, I love I love Carl Jung. Carl Jung, for people that don't know, was a Swiss psychologist. But Carl, there's some connection to his work. He is a psychoanalyst, psychologist, and obviously I did philosophy and I do philosophy, but some overlap. He was kind of just generally a philosopher in his own right, very wise person. A lot of great quotes. I quote him all the fucking time. But just like a wizard of, like, our people, really. He died almost 100 years ago, I think. Was it in the 60s? Not quite 100 years ago. Quite a while ago. But I love his archetypal concepts of people, and that we all kind of fall into these archetypes. And for someone like me who grew up with fantasy genre, like fantasy games and whatnot, I love the idea that we fall into these kind of our personalities. We fall into these different kinds of archetypes. It can be very helpful in trying to orient yourself and develop your character and your ego properly, which is why I always shout out Myers-Briggs, because Myers-Briggs, so Jung had these archetypes that he had for people. So he had like the Joker. I don't know if he had the wizard or not, but I can't remember all of his archetypes all the time. But he had these kind of generalizations of people that we would fall into. But Myers-Briggs did a much more in-depth version of this. But I just always shout this out when I'm talking about Jung. For people that are interested in this and orienting themselves properly in this world and trying to find themselves, really, this is a great way to do it. And I would highly recommend this. These are some of the examples loosely of Carl Jung's archetypes. Advocate, mediators, protagonists, campaigners. You can take free personality quiz and you can kind of find where you fit. This is eerily good, but it's because they put a lot of work in. And Jung was just a master of intuition and the unknown. It's just very, very intriguing character. Yeah. Look at Gold Shower. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, man. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Lion's Pride in. Yeah. No. I'll play that music occasionally. The some World of Warcraft, fucking lo-fi stuff. But yeah, obviously I'm a huge WoW fan. Huge Elder Scrolls fan too, actually. But I love RPGs, and MMORPGs were just a brilliant way to like go and kind of go out in the world and have fun with your friends. Anyway, but yeah, great shit for anybody again looking to find themselves. Myers-Briggs, wonderful stuff. I am the advocate here, this chap. But yeah, just to highlight what my personality came up as, but just to get an idea of all the different kinds of people we have. It's a healthier way of looking at people, honestly, and it's a healthier way of looking at the world. Sometimes you'll find going through the world, whether you're going through academia or just through, like your job, the corporate world, whatever, government, you'll find people like the IQ thing gets thrown around a lot. And it's that's intelligence is a very hard thing to pin down. And in IQ tests, they don't really understand how to factor creativity into those very well. So this is a better way, I think, of looking at the world, and that everybody literally has something to give. And this is just a brilliant way of kind of just orienting yourself when you look out into the world, when you look at people, and you look into people, and you try and understand them, I guess. And you try and see, it's weird when you study this kind of stuff, you begin to pick this up in people's personalities all the time. And it just makes you appreciate, I think, the experience a little bit more, right? How diverse it is. You're an ENTP. What's the ENTP? You told me this before, did you? Where is ENTP? ENTP, the debater. Of course. So of course. Yeah. Logician the purple. You know what's weird? I've mentioned this before. I don't know if this is related or not, but again, Jung was a psychotherapist, and he dabbled, I think, in hypnosis and things like that. That was something that was popular back in the early 20th century. But he had a lot of mystical experiences himself, a lot of strange things he couldn't explain in dealing with people. I mean, such a unique opportunity to sit down with dozens of people and work with them through their entire lives, really. You get to see their entire journey play out. It's just a very unique perspective on the world that you kind of develop after seeing tons of people go through their entire life story. I mean, like, wow, and finding patterns and whatnot in that as well. But he would tell stories like where he would have a woman lie down and remember a life in Egypt. And there was an incident once where she was having one of these like borderline kind of regression experiences with him. And then a scarab was knocking on the window. This is in Switzerland, by the way, so quite strange. Was buzzing at the window, and he opened the window and it flew in. And just those kinds of weird coincidences you run into in life. It's one of Jung's quotes I always quote is, "Don't be ignorant to mystical experience, because there's so much to the world that we don't know, and you can't approach it with ignorance and hubris." Yeah, very cool. But sorry, my own experience when I went and saw, you notice the colors that they use. It's interesting here. There is a bit of woo behind some of this. When I went and sat down with a psychic once that I was very skeptical about, actually, the first thing she mentioned was that she told me that I was a green. She said, "Your aura, it's green." I said, "What the fuck? What do you mean green? Like green?" And I remember it was not that long after that. I ran into Myers-Briggs over the years through university. They used Myers-Briggs. They would give you these little like test thing. Like they were Myers-Briggs would go around universities and collect data and whatnot. And I ran into it after the fact. And I remember I looked at this and I got this diplomat or this advocate, and it was in green. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. People who see auras and whatnot. And I just always thought, and still think to some degree, most of it's probably horseshit, but I thought that was kind of an interesting coincidence. But how many colors are there in the rainbow, really? There's a lot now, actually, I think. So, anyway. Trudeau. What color's his aura? Dark. Very dark. Red and black and Mount Doom. Just the enemy of freedom, really. That's what his aura would be. Gray. That's a good one. That's the worst one, isn't it? Yeah. Just like nothing. Just, oh God, scum. Now, what's even worse are the people who are trying to apologize for this or want this. This CTV tech expert in Canada gets excited about the idea of regulating online content to dealing out fines and punishments for those who are not complying. She wants a digital safety commissioner. Justin Trudeau's Canada.
I really like the idea of potentially creating a digital safety commissioner, someone whose job it is, who has a full office to regulate online content, to potentially deal out fines and punishment for those that are not falling into compliance, and also that they would have sort of like ombudsman-like capabilities, where it's a place that you could go and issue complaints. Because, if something happens online, if you see online harm, especially around children, there's really not much you can do about it right now in Canada. You can report it to the platform where you see it, but who knows if that's really going anywhere. If we have a digital safety commissioner who can field complaints, field concerns from the general public, that is something that I'm really keen to see. And then perhaps the legislation, I mean, the devil will be in the details when it comes to the legislation. Maybe it'll be good, maybe it'll be bad, maybe it'll have a bit of both, but it's something that can evolve. It's the office that I'm really interested in seeing being.
All under the guise of it's for your own good. Welcome, Rabbit. It's right house there. It's for the kids. We've got to stop the kids from verbally abusing each other online. They could end up broken and lost. It's not for the kids. It's for the sake of control, right? It's to be completely honest, I think really what it is. It is literal idiots, people who cannot think and or refuse to think, just trying to control the narrative. And so this person, she's obviously not involved with this, I don't think, directly. But people advocating for this, again, aren't thinking. You're not using your brain, right? And they're very naive, too. And that's the other problem we've run into, I think, in the West. In the last couple decades, the population has been lulled into this kind of like dreamlike state where they believe that all the bad people in the world got defeated in 1945 and there weren't any other bad people in the world, right? Pulling strings in our Western democracies, influencing these politicians, bribing them, even the politicians themselves, honestly. This extreme naivety. And you see it still kind of pervasive through some of these Western countries. Canada, unfortunately, although Canada woke the fuck up big time when Trudeau confiscated all the truckers' bank accounts. That snapped a lot of people. They were like, oh, fuck. They started to realize, like, this guy is dangerous. Just dangerous in general, governments having this much power. It's just very unsettling, yeah. One of those considering all the butter whips. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's just like, yeah, maybe it'll be good. Yeah, it's just like nuts, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, I know, Shadows. Yeah, that's when established to drop the ball. I know. Yeah. Yeah, I think unfortunately it absolutely is. I would agree, Hustler. Yeah, it absolutely is. Still coming down the pipes. I mean, what we saw happen, which of course, what I would hope happens this year and the next year is we see a complete collapse of the Western mainstream media. It's already occurring here in Canada. I know CTV and CBC have had a bunch of layoffs. Nobody's paying attention. A lot of people aren't paying attention. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people aren't paying attention anymore to these bullshit narratives. The whole the protests with the farmers in Europe was a good example of that, where that kind of like no coverage on these Western mainstream media outlets, really. It was on outlets like X and other outlets as well that really kind of brought that to the forefront. I've been following on X. Rumble too covered a lot, but you know, it's just an example of how they're fucking dying and how they've needed to die for a while. Honestly, my worry is that, you know, the force that's been puppeting them, they're not going to go silently into the night. That's the only concern here. That's a concern with all of this, really, even in regards to a lot of these puppets they've installed probably in these Western democracies like Trudeau, or Macron in France, another fucking puppet. The guy running the UK right now supposedly is also a bit of a dink. He said some comments recently that were pretty ridiculous. So as these puppets lose support, what then are they left with? What then do they have left? And, you know, the game plan may be to just create a big mess, which typically is what happens, at least what's happened in the last couple of centuries, when you fall into like a rut and you don't know how to get out of it. Start a war. That's usually how you get out of something sticky. Yeah, what happens in a few places for beach install. That's exactly, yeah, Rabbit, absolutely, man. Yeah, and I know Twitch isn't super fond of these kind of conversations. I mean, I'm too small of a channel to have any real issue, but if I had 100 times the viewership right now, I probably would have been fucking canceled by now. They don't like these conversations. We ran into that through the whole pandemic. Oh, that's old Sleepy Joe, right? Sleepy Joe is, yeah, that boy's fucking, I don't know what that boy is. Yeah, he's a full blown fucking NPC right now. That guy. No, they all are. I mean, you can go through the list of these Western democracies and you can find pretty quickly, oh shit. Now, Arden was one she was a New Zealand prime minister and she stepped down actually because she was getting heckled so fucking badly. But a lot of them have been compromised by nefarious individuals, scrupulous individuals. I mean, Trudeau's whole cabinet essentially openly admits that they're associated with the WEF, and Klaus Schwab bragged how easily it was to infiltrate the cabinet and kind of perverse their minds. It's like, man, what the fuck? Like, where's our intelligence agency, right? Like, after him saying that, and them all showing up on the WEF website. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Are they idiots? They must be fucking idiots. Like, that or they're compromised as well. Yeah. Yeah. That's the Red Ridge Mountains. Oh, fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. He sends you on a quest to Goldshire late at night is where he sends you, Shadows. Sends you on a quest to Goldshire late at night. That's where old Uncle Joe is going. In the basement of Goldshire, of the Lions Pride Inn, sorry. Yeah. On Moonguard. That's where you go. It's where Uncle Joe sends you. Yeah, in the basement though. This was, I'm just going through some of the things I had opened up here. I don't know if this is true or not. This is like, the world's so fucking obnoxious. I mean, like, you know, this guy was saying he was going to blow up Tucker Carlson's car or some shit, and the Russian Secret Service stopped it. Man, the Russians, they're all fucked, man. Everybody running all these, they're all just fucking psychopaths. Like, you can't fucking trust them. Putin's a fucking psychopath. Joe Biden was a psychopath. Now he's just like an NPC. Trudeau's definitely a fucking psychopath. I mean, it's just unfortunate. I don't know. I'm trying to think who out in the world isn't. There are a couple of decent leaders. The guy running Argentina right now, Javier Milei, he's like a meme, but he does concern me sometimes. he was firing off a chainsaw there in one clip, and I was like, whoa. He's just swinging it around in a crowd. I was like, holy fuck. Like, Lemon, what's up, man? How have you been? How have things been out west? No more. The forest fires calmed down, I'm assuming, through the winter, huh? Yes, I did. I watched it on here too, Shadows. Yeah. Very interesting. There was a bunch. I was going through schizo stuff people picked up on. There was one part in the interview, I guess, I didn't remember this, but Putin took off his watch early on in the interview and placed it down. And people were like looking at the face of the watch and thought this was some kind of a code or something. So that was kind of interesting. That was something floating around. That was like QAnon people doing that or whatever, still like trying to cope, whatever the fuck they think is going on. But yeah, very interesting. Oh, are there actually? Oh, Jesus Christ. That's not good. Yeah. Oh, anyway, so maybe it's Russian propaganda. I don't fucking know that Tucker's car was trying to get blown up. Maybe it was. Maybe they stopped it from happening. He was supposedly sent by Ukraine. Yeah. Anyway, because people here in the West, although I don't think anyone's buying it, they keep sending money over to Ukraine. And listen, I've talked to some Ukrainian people that came over. I don't agree with what the fuck happened there, honestly. There's been a lot of innocent young people that have died. It's been a horrible, fucking atrocious situation. All over, just again, land. All these people dying. But I don't know if I support, who's running that operation there right now in against, the invasion. It's a very complicated thing geopolitically. And just throwing money at this fucking idiot, Zelensky. I saw an interview recently. The guy looked like he's coked out of his fucking mind. All that money is just going over there, getting washed and getting fucking thrown out to fucking everybody who probably shouldn't have it. And it's our money, right? And they're just like, oh, we're just going to do this. It's like, if you're giving away, like in the States, I think they were trying to sign a bill for $100 billion. Like, where's the fucking debt clock in the States? Just a second. This is always a fun one. No. Oh, she's at 34 trillion right now. So they wanted to throw another 100 billion on top of that fucking total. Now, if you want to do that, you really should have some kind of referendum. I know Congress and the Senate are supposed to be representing the people's interests. I can guarantee you, if you took an actual vote from all the people on do you want to send $100 billion to Ukraine, they'd say fuck no. So anybody trying to argue for that, that's a little bit problematic. So, yeah. Yeah, man, that's a good point. Yeah, it's just, it could also just be them trying to just create some kind of fucking war. And that's what I'm going to mention here right now, I guess. Aside from this guy. So maybe some of you guys don't know who this is. So this is David de Rothschild. He's set to inherit the Rothschild fortune, previously held by his father, the late Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, who just passed away not that long ago. And another member of the Rothschild, not their Rothschild family, passed away just a day or two ago. He's youngest of 3 children born to Victoria Lou Schott. This guy, believe it or not, was actually on Alex Jones' show years ago. So Alex Jones was like talking a bunch of shit about the Rothschild family. And David was going around, he was doing like environmental stuff. And he said, oh, fuck, bro. Like, I'll come on and talk to you. And he went and talked with Alex for like an hour. And Alex was calling like a demon. They doing satanic worship. And another example of where, Alex, I think, brave guy, is out after the truth. Sometimes gets it wrong a little bit. I think, honestly, probably he's got some things wrong about people running the world. But you can still find that interview. It is quite amusing. He just came at him so hard, and this guy just had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. It was pretty funny. Yeah. I think he's who we're supposed to eat when we say eat the rich. Yeah. Well, I mean, they would be quite rich. Election year, they want the stocks high. Yeah, that's true too, man. They would be very rich. Now, they made their fortune, I think, in oil. They were involved in the banking industry too, I think, in Europe. But just who really, it's this question. And there's a term that people have thrown around more recently, 5th generation warfare, in that we don't know who the enemy is. And I'll get into this here in a second, but there's absolutely an enemy in the world of a majority of the population, specifically kind of the middle class, that for a while has been trying to crush the middle class down into poverty and create this kind of neo-feudalism where we have, the serfs, and then we have nobles, and then we have royalty. And I think this has been observed and talked about by far more intelligent people than myself in this area. So, I'm not the expert here on this, but I've listened to people who definitely are. And there's definitely an enemy out there that's been trying to do this. Now, we don't know who they are, and we'd like to think that we know who they are, and we'd like to throw a dart on a map and hit the Rothschilds and hit Klaus Schwab and hit all these people. I would bet probably it's more complicated than that, unfortunately, because you'd be dealing with people who are very intelligent, and they will have obfuscated themselves probably very well, because they know, I'm assuming, not to reveal themselves, right? To keep themselves hidden. And what they're going to do is they're going to put people out in the line of fire, idiots, right? Actors, which is why you see a lot of politicians in the West compromised by organizations like the WEF having backgrounds in acting, right? Zelensky, Trudeau, etc., right? They're Macron as well. They're actors. They're putting on a show, right? They're just doing what they're told. And now, who are they is the question. And that's the hard question to answer. I would presume probably people of generational wealth, who maybe also have some generational knowledge that they've been carrying along. There's a couple suggestions people have put out there. One big mover and shake. It's probably very complicated as well, where there are many different groups of people involved in this from all over the world, from many different cultures. The sheiks of Saudi Arabia are a prime contender. They are unbelievably wealthy. They would be up there as a top contender. The Vatican, although that's complicated, but there could be some kind. There's been suggestions there's some kind of shadow group behind the Pope that kind of been running the Vatican. That's another definite contender for potential big string pullers in the West. I mean, that organization is unimaginably wealthy. I mean, their disclosed wealth doesn't make any sense. Like they have the amount of artifacts they have in their archives. You couldn't even put a price tag on. It's just, so they would be another group that would be up there, I would assume. And then the Chinese too are another group. There would be just people in there that would be unimaginably wealthy, and they've been wealthy for thousands of years. So that play part of the world. So, yeah, yes. Oh, the Knights Templar, sorry, yeah. They're like the founders of the banking system. They say Knights Templar, but equal parts Rothschild. Yeah, that's what we talked about that here recently. There was a couple of people who had theories about that potentially the founders were involved, with the Knights Templar, and that the Knights Templar kind of set up the first banking system, and that in the West there may be a group of people. This is a conspiracy theory, mind you, but they refer to themselves as the Anglo-Saxons, and they are kind of the enlightened group of people who are descended from maybe the Knights Templar, who have been pulling the strings in the West mainly, and they're involved in banking and whatnot. And that they employ like the Masonic orders, like fraternities, and they get these politicians to kind of come up through them, and that's how they get them into these places politically, which is interesting. I've seen a couple people go over these theories over the years. Like a lot of U.S. presidents were involved in like Skull and Bones. Some other kind of fraternities and universities, and then they get involved in the Masonic fraternities, and they go to places like Bohemian Grove to get into these brotherhoods. And one of this, it kind of gets into cults and the psychology of cults and how cults work, where they get you to do a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense. And part of the reason why they get you to do all these strange, stupid rituals is because they're just testing you. They want to see if you can follow orders. They want to see if you can do something that's kind of against your intuition, really, and just do it. And then that's part of the reason why maybe they grab people out of these brotherhoods, these fraternities, these cults, is that they're conditioned already, and that they're conditioned to do what they're going to be told to do. And then they put them in positions of political power, and they manipulate them in these blackmail, etc., to keep them in line. It's very, very interesting. If that's in fact how they've been doing this, that would be very interesting. Yeah. My understanding was with Rothschilds, who were the mint and safe all the money when they started using money, so they had a lot of central power, and the whole selling money for more than it's worth started with them, aka inflation. Is that the case, did you? Okay. I knew they're involved in oil in Germany. The Rothschild family, they were like oil barons. They set up like the railway and whatnot over there. Quantitative easing aside, banks can't both lend money for more than it's worth when they also control the system. That's a Monte Carlo game. Well, that's economists would be like, no, but central banks, blah, 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 blah. That's just spreadsheet talk for moving shit around to hide things. They go back to like 1600s or more, way pre-oil. Okay. Interesting. I know I think when did they make their money though? I guess maybe. Listen, I'm not a historian on them. There's definitely some interesting history that they have. I know that. I've heard that. J.P. Morgan was the American powerhouse for oil and banking system, and the Rothschilds are the global equivalents. Rockefeller too was another powerful mover and shaker. The Rockefeller family now is very powerful too in the world. They came out of the States. Yeah. Big people's taxes, interest, Rockefeller. Yes, he was American. Yes, he was. Yeah. Interesting. Maybe these are the puppet masters, right? We're the higher tier. Yes. Yeah. But more specifically, not just the Rothschilds, but there's two separate families. So there's the Rothschilds, there's the De Rothschilds. So the De Rothschilds, what David is a part of, is the big dick money family, from what I understand. Yeah, but they have the pure reptilian blood. Yeah, they're the pure blood reptilians, shapeshifters. Yeah. Fuck, man. I guess speaking of which, yeah. Fuck yeah. This is Kim posts a lot of fucking shit, but I do follow Kim on Twitter. Yeah. What is the Great Reset? So this is from David Webb's book, The Great Taking. It's a deliberate collapse engineered by the elites via the deep state in central banks to force people into poverty and make them dependent on their new digital currency, CBDCs, giving them control over everything. This is kind of what's going on right now. This is a breakdown by David. I've seen interviews with David before. He's a pretty smart guy. Legal framework to do this is already in place. Many people in Europe and the US are wondering why their governments are engaging in behavior that is harming their citizens. Wars, uncontrolled immigration, climate change, restrictions on farmers, attacks on family values, the endless creation of divisions by the media, and the destabilization of industry. It's not by accident, it's deliberate. The globalist elites understand that the Western system of unsustainable debt and money printing is coming to an end. The BRICS countries know this too and have created an alternative global financial system to circumvent the inevitable collapse of the West. This is a real source of tensions between the West and Russia and China. The de-dollarization of global trade marks a global reset, non-global, and provides an alternative to those who refuse to participate. It creates an obstacle to the global debt forgiveness the West tries to achieve by forcing their new financial system on the world. They have no intention to pay their debts. The West wants to replace their failed system with a new global system of totalitarian control. Digital currencies paired with surveillance and a social credit system that will restrict access to money if you act against their rules. They want the ability to sanction you on an individual level. That's an important part there. Just like they sanction countries that don't obey the U.S. rules-based order. That is precisely what they are trying to do. Paper money will cease to exist. Independent digital currencies will be prohibited. Your ability to pay your bills and buy food will depend on your behavior. It's the end of free speech and protests. AI will be trained to control the behavior of billions of people. You will all be slaves. Well, we kind of all are to some degree already. But first, everything has to get really bad for you to accept such a system. Wars, pandemics, poverty, food shortages, and increased crime rates. You will only use your new system if you think it's the best way out of hell. They are willingly creating that hell. I believe many leaders have secured their place in this totalitarian dream. They are executing this sinister plan of the WEF elites. They will live privileged lives and rule without interference. They won't be held accountable for their crimes or be subject to criticism. They believe this new system is a necessity for a better world. Better for them, not for you. This is the future they want. What are you going to do about it? Just 1 million views on that. Interesting. Yeah. And interest rates creep up, and you're saying they're going to cut rates, but if they do, it'll be 1 quarter before they re-raise, no cap. They want to ban crypto. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, they cannot allow crypto to blend with the real market because it destroys the control they have in the banking system. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. And it's, again, this is reaching a fever pitch here because they definitely have started to lose control of the narrative, whoever these people are. And I think it's just safe to say, I always just refer to them as just hyper wealthy people. I mean, more than likely there are probably a handful of puppet masters really playing the game on this very complicated international chessboard. But just hyper wealthy people that kind of want to stay on top of the pile as it starts to kind of collapse. So what are they going to do to stay in control and manage the population as it grows, and also kind of as it grows starts to get out of their reach? And this is where you get into uncomfortable topics like eugenics and people calling for eugenics and these eugenicists talking about how the world's going to be overpopulated. We need to reel the population in. The real reason they want to reel the population in a lot of these theories isn't to kind of create more sustainability. It's to create and maintain and further their control systems, because when the population gets to a certain threshold, it becomes very difficult to control it all. So if you bring it back to a more manageable number, then you don't have that problem anymore, right? And there's an article here I'm going to go over in a minute that kind of gets into that. That's a very uncomfortable conversation. I mean, you get into conspiratorial territory. Unfortunately, this is a real and ever-present threat. There are always assholes out in the world that are just going to do whatever they can to get control. And we can't be so naive as to think that there wouldn't be people in the world that would go and do something like, let's say, release a bioweapon out of the population. It's like, wow, no, people wouldn't be that bad. If you become that naive, good luck. You're done, probably. There's not a lot of hope. Obviously, we don't want that to be true. but it's looking like definitely might have been the case. Yes, yeah. If they legitimize Bitcoin, we get more inflation because a bunch of new fake money enters. Now, once you control, everyone's taking their piece. That's a good point, too. That is probably more than likely, again, they're just all trying to stay, the people on top are trying to stay on top, yeah. Those in power are laws holding the rest down. Prison planet, eating bugs and shit. Hopefully not. That's the thing. Like, hopefully we can rein back all this bullshit. Yeah. Yeah. I hope what happens is people wake up. There's been a lot of people that have woken up to this threat, myself included. I mean, I've always followed this stuff, but I grew up listening to fucking Alex Jones ramble, although I treated it more as a meme. But, you know, there were elements of what he talked about I knew that were legitimate. I just had a hard time believing that this force, again, not that I would have been surprised that it's out there, would actually go and try to do something like this. And we may have witnessed that happen more recently, the beginnings of this move. The question is, why are they moving in the way that they're moving now? And that gets even more woo. But here is just what I was just talking about. This is very interesting, and I'm going to play it. And I know, again, I don't have a lot of people here right now, so Twitch probably doesn't fucking care. But I'm not saying this. This is certainly this guy's saying this. There is a depopulation agenda in play. Bill Gates and members of the World Economic Forum, along with corrupted leaders like Sunak in the UK, are involved. The WHO is a front organization for the Gates Foundation and is funded in large part by Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation to a tune of 88% funding. Adherents to eugenics depopulation decided to stop talking about it and actually do it, accusing them of the crimes against humanity. Oh, but Klaus Schwab and the Globus. Now, again, I see a lot of this rhetoric on Twitter. You know, maybe I think it's probably more complicated than this. Again, on surface level, these are probably people that are problematic. I don't think these personally are the people we're necessarily concerned about, unfortunately. It's unfortunate, but I think they're just so far behind the curtain. Probably. I don't know how we're going to deal with them, really. But anyway, this is, what's his name again here? I didn't even link his name, for Christ's sake. It's David something. I think it was right at the start there. Hold on. Dr. David Martin. So Dave, here, I'll put it closest. Dave is a doctor. He was involved with the U.S. military in going around the world and looking for like evidence of like bioweapons, I think, in like foreign labs and stuff. He was pretty accredited guy. Like, he's up there. He was an investigator, again, for the government, essentially, to try and figure out, you know, what some of these foreign powers are doing, maybe they shouldn't be doing in regards to bioweapon development. And during the whole crises we just went through, alarm bells started going off for him that something wasn't right with all of this. And he had been tracking the whole gain of function research for a while that the States was involved in China as well, and allowing them to do kind of on their behalf, which is very concerning. And this guy has all the fucking receipts. Very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely some debate on some of his conclusions, but very, very interesting stuff. He is completely convinced that this was all intentional and that it was on the behalf of these psychopaths that are trying to depopulate the planet. And that ultimately that's their goal. And again, they want to do that so they can kind of rein in control of the world. You know, maybe that's, I mean, I would, who knows? I don't know. I don't think any of us know. I think we definitely have the inkling that there's a threat here. But anyway, I'm not going to play through the whole thing here right now, but I posted this in the Discord. Very interesting. I think Jim Ferguson was, former be a parliamentary. Oh, he was a parliament candidate in the UK. He's a Brexit party. Okay. businessman, entrepreneur. I see him post on here. He's definitely, some of these guys like post some sketchy fucking things too. They just kind of, I mean, I think this is kind of their business doing this stuff, but anyway, I don't know about him. I don't know about Jim in particular, but I know David's a very interesting guy. I highly recommend anybody listen to David and listen to what he said. He's very smart, very accredited person, very qualified to talk on this topic, actually. Specifically, the topic of trying to investigate the origins of what happened and where the virus came from and who released it. If it was, in fact, some kind of intentional release, even accidental, the origins of it. So just another voice that got silenced through all this, just unnecessarily. Well, very necessarily, because he was uncovering the whole deal. This is interesting as well. So CPAC in the States is the largest, most influential gathering of conservatives in the world. So primarily American conservatives, protecting America. They passed a resolution to condemn the attempts in the World Health Organization, in coordination with the Biden administration, the Chinese Communist Party, the Gates Foundation, to surrender national sovereignty to a de facto global government through a radically revised public health treaty. So this is another element of this more recently. The WHO, which isn't any kind of governmental body anybody signed up with, really, or we've signed up with. The governments have got involved with them. It was set up by Henry Kissinger, essentially, which is also who's with Klaus Schwab, who set up the WEF back in the day. They have this health bill / I guess it's a treaty that they've been trying to get all these Western nations to sign on to. In the event of another pandemic, we would give over the reins to them, so they would deal with everything. Essentially, we would give up our sovereignty to them in the event of this. And they keep saying we're just waiting for the next one. We're just waiting for the next one. They called it Disease X for unknown. We're just waiting for the next one, right? It's bound to, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. It's like, okay, well, we just want to make sure we're not fucking signed on to the treaty here, because, it's all of these Western democracies giving over control to this private organization. I mean, again, just to highlight how idiotic some of these people in our Western democracies are, that, or how compromised they are. What a surprise, right? I mean, that people got paid a bunch of money and just sold everybody else out, right? What a unique thing that's never happened before. You can't. Yeah, essentially, they're both like right-leaning. Yeah, Rabbit. Yeah, they're both very, very, very right-leaning parties. Yeah. Like in the States, they've got Democrats and Republicans, liberal, conservative. In Canada, we just call them liberal conservative. So in the UK too, our parliamentary system is modeled after yours. So I think you're also liberal conservative technically there as well. But yeah, they go by the Republican Party in the United States. Yeah. Not an expert in politics by any fucking stretch of the imagination, but yes. This was another interesting piece of information. Now, I don't know if this is tying into what happened recently. So Google recently, I don't know if I covered this or not. This was kind of funny, although not really. So Google, I think it was a Gemini, is that it? What it's called, or AI? Yes, Gemini. So the Google, I'm going to get the lo-fi beats back onto the background here. AI was putting out very racist content, where people were noticing that it was definitely creating some problems. You can see here. Here's an image of a Viking. Show me an image of the founding fathers, and they had every race except white people, which I don't really get into this stuff usually. Labeling people like white and black to begin with, and Asian. I mean, I like to be a bit more specific personally. It's like white. What do you mean white? Like, my skin isn't white. Your skin isn't black. Like, where are you from? Like, I'm from Europe, originally, my genetics. You're from Africa. Your genetics are from Asia. Okay, where, though? Okay, I'm Celtic. I'm from Ireland, right? You're Northern African. You're Southern African, right? You're Eastern Asian, right? You're from Japan, right? You're from China or Taiwan or Indonesia or... You know, it's like, we just create these like blanket, very problematic, but it's very easy in dividing us into little groups. Anyway, it was a bit of a meme. For people that didn't see this, it was actually a huge fucking problem. Like, someone generate me an image of George Washington, and that's what it came up with. It was like very anti-white, is what happened. The guy who was behind it, it's been a few hours and still feels like today's inauguration speech will go down as one of the greatest ever, acknowledging systematic racism, reiterating an American ideal is a dream for the world, but we need to work on ourselves to earn it. Man, anyway, the guy was a bit of a cock. Now, you know, definitely not, I'm not deaf to issues that have gone on in the States over the years. The founding fathers were slave owners. Now, does that mean we should tear down their statues? No, I don't think so. I mean, if anything, you have to kind of understand who they were, and that's a part of them, right? In that they weren't necessarily, it kind of speaks to what happened there a little bit, where some of them, they were not good people, really. You could argue they were great people, but they ended up fighting against the British and then created a framework that needed some work, because you can't create a framework that tries to give rights to all people and then have another group of people you don't consider to be people, right? So very sensitive stuff, right? So I understand, but at the same time, we also need to stop hyper obsessing over some of these things, I think. And again, in Canada, we have a bit of a different vibe. I think we embraced kind of our multicultural heritage. In the States, not people in the States, obviously. There's tons of Spanish-speaking people in the States right now, obviously. But it was a little bit more isolated, I guess. But again, everybody there's American. Same with this narrative too of people calling themselves like, we're all just Canadian, American, etc. Just move on from this shit. Honestly, it's just, oh god, it's just a problem, and all this does is create more animosity, and I think that's all that's really contributed. But anyway, it's just digging into the role that the intelligence agencies have had into Google, and Meta as well, and how problematic that is. Like, I posted this, but just who has been involved heading these companies. And many of them have an overlap into the intelligence agencies, talking about that it's this revolving door between CIA and big tech. And it's in that there may be some psyops employed onto the general public right now. And I think that we're getting into more specifically, especially during the election in 2020, there was absolutely a psyop played there where they did not want Trump to win. And, you know, I don't know what that's all about, honestly. I don't know if these people, who knows, maybe these people are fucking trying to cover something up. But either way, it was unacceptable. Let's see here. If policy used for looking up people's info on their data services companies can pay to fact check social credit of users. North America and everything is not called social credit, but credit plus a bunch of weird social credit markers. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's just like fucking, man. Just makes you want to just take yourself off the internet all the fucking together, honestly. But then it's already probably too late. Yeah. Absolutely, Hustler. Yeah. I think there's something else going on behind the scenes with Trump. That was my own intuition about it all. I was never a fan of the guy. I always thought he's a fucking idiot. I heard that from people. He came to our city and some people met him, and I guess he's just the biggest dickhead when he was here. But there was something else going on with him. And I think there are some people in his circle, I think, that you could probably gather that from, that were ex-military, ex-intelligence people, that there's some potentially very nefarious things that have gone on within the United States. And I think that the intention may have been to try and expose that and expose some of the corruption that has gone on too, in the West, not just in the United States, but in the West. And I think it may have kind of failed, but there's something about the whole Trump deal that I think if I were to bet, I would say people that were involved in the intelligence agencies, kind of white hat type people, probably came upon some very disturbing information, and people in the military may have also been privy to this, and they needed somebody outside of the system to run that had a chance, that could rally the people behind them and get elected and get them into control. And that was probably why you saw so much resistance to him, really, initially, was because of that. And it became pretty clear, a lot of the globalist type interests, they came out and adamantly spoke against him. And I think it was very clear that he was not, at least bought by them. Maybe he's probably done lots of shady business dealings over the years, but that was my own intuition around the whole Trump deal, that there was other elements behind him. He was probably a puppet in and of himself for another group of people that were trying to get us out of the grasp of these globalist idiots that had co-opted that democracy and were driving it into the ground. So whether Trump in and of himself is a good leader, I would bet no, honestly. But he was the guy maybe that they went to and decided to take up the challenge, you know? So he was talking about drain the swamp and fake news, and no one was fight. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fake news and deep shit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I will say this. I don't know if I said this before here. So, I mean, I followed the whole QAnon thing. I don't want to be labeled as somebody because it's become such a fucking cesspool. I found it at first to be kind of interesting, and anyone who followed that whole narrative, that the initial postings, whoever was doing that was involved in some shit. They dropped some stuff with that initially that was very disturbing, specifically to do with Hollywood and some people in Hollywood that were posting some very disgusting things on Twitter back in the day. There was somebody involved with that was definitely in some kind of position to know. And then I don't know what happened. Clearly it went off the fucking rails big time. But there were some very interesting things that came out of that. I did think there was a rumor. So this is definitely a conspiracy theory. And again, if I'm going to be intuitive, there was a rumor. So I'll pull this up here. I'm sure some of you guys, not many of us in here right now, have heard this before. This guy here. So, yeah, Prost and Baye. So, this guy here is the son of JFK. And back in the 80s and 90s, he was a very popular guy, right? The son of JFK. He owned kind of like Publicity, magazine in the States. And he was running, I think, for a position in Congress, if I can remember correctly. And he was running against Hillary Clinton. And then he died in a plane crash. But there's some people who put this theory out there that he didn't actually die, that he faked his death, or someone helped him fake his death because someone actually wanted him dead. And that he's been alive, and that one of the people behind Trump's campaign is this guy. Now, this is one of those like fucking out there conspiracy theories, by the way, which is very interesting. But I'll show some pictures here if no one's familiar with this. I wasn't familiar with this guy at all. I'd maybe seen pictures of him, but I didn't really know who he was. I didn't know he was JFK's son. But this is one of Trump's themes, right? And one of the initial kind of whole QAnon theme that was created on the boards right initially at 4chan was conquering darkness. That they were going to unveil this darkness that's out in the world in the West. They were going to conquer it. And Trump had kind of expressed similar sentiments. He maybe even said that himself, or his campaign had said something similar. But there was this definitely the campaign of this whole QAnon poster that was exposing corruption kind of in the West and perversion too in Hollywood by many of these Western elites. And so there's this guy that started showing up to Trump's rallies, and his name was Vincent Fusca. This right here. And this is what he looks like here. This dude with the hat. So one of the conspiracy theories, which is kind of funny, that I thought was kind of funny, is that this guy is him. Now, when looking at this pretty clearly, they don't look super similar, although the nose is definitely way off when you look at it. Nose is way off. Here he is here, waiting. So there's some interesting, I don't know if we're going to be able to find these pictures. I had a couple of them saved. There was one, I wonder if they'll show, oh, here's one here too. So his partner also died. JFK's Jr.'s partner. And her partner. I think maybe his wife? I don't know. Carolyn Bessette, she also died in the plane crash with him. But there was a rally that he showed up at a couple Trump rallies. One of the Trump rallies I thought was very interesting. It was one of his big rallies. He had both of these people positioned on either side of him at one of the rallies, the camera. They were both over each of his shoulders. And I thought that's kind of funny because I've been following people saying this and I didn't really fucking know what to believe any of it. There's two of them there in the crowd at one of them. There he is again. Now, the interesting thing, Vincent Fusca, the man many QAnon believers believe is JFK Jr. in disguise. People shouting JFK at him and asking for selfies. Now, why are they asking him that? So, Vincent Fusca. So, keep in mind the theme initially for QAnon was conquering darkness, right? Exposing and conquering darkness. If you translate the word, this is just a fun conspiracy theory. Translate name. Vincent Fusca. I think it should give us a translation here. Hold on. Fusca name meaning. There's a way to get this done. Ooh, how do you do this now? Fuck. Hold on. Name meaning. Here, we'll go back. We'll do it one at a time. Vincent. I don't know. Spanish. What? Name meaning. Vincent. Conquering. Okay, here we go. I got it. Vincent means conquering. Fusca. Dark. It translates, one of the translates is darkness. So, conquering darkness is what Vincent Fusca means. It's pretty interesting, actually. This guy showing up, right? Supposedly. You know, some people are claiming is this guy, this JFK guy in disguise to some degree. Is his name translates to conquering darkness. Conquering the dark. And this is what some people had speculated maybe that he's who's behind the whole QAnon thing too. Interesting. Guy running for, I think, Congress against Hillary Clinton dies in a plane crash and then comes back from the dead later on and supports Trump. Now, remember who Trump ran against initially as well, right? And remember when QAnon cropped up. So, very interesting. It's just, you know, one of those, like, we'll never really figure it out, I don't think. But very interesting. Where was someone did a comparison of their faces too. Anyway, there's two of them together actually, which is pretty. That one was very trippy when you look at it actually. Now his nose is a bit different. I don't know, maybe he's got a prosthetic nose on when he goes out in public, but you can see that is that's one of the ones that I'd seen, and it's pretty uncanny actually. Now obviously in the left, he's aged by about 20 some years, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe it's one of those things like hiding in plain sight, right? Yeah. He might be the Messiah. Maybe. If he's out there, I don't know what the fuck he's waiting for, right? I mean, at this rate, I don't know if Trump's going to fucking win. So, very interesting. Anyway, I'll get off that. That fucking woo. On to more interesting stuff, I guess. I'll just get through this shit here. Trump time traveled and brought him back to the current timeline. That one's much better. He went with the Pleiadians, droid. Yeah. He went with the A's. I do like that one more. Vladimir Putin. If Ukraine joins NATO, you won't even have time to blank your eyes and you execute Article 5. Article 5 is that NATO will defend its allies if they're in jeopardy. It'll send troops. And so if Ukraine were to join, essentially as soon as the second Ukraine joins NATO is then obligated to then send troops to help Ukraine fight against Russia. So Ukraine joining NATO means NATO gets support from the West, and then the West essentially engages in war against Russia. So there was the head of NATO stating, I don't think I covered this last night, that inevitably Ukraine is going to join NATO. And it's like, oh my God, like what are they trying to fucking do? Just kill everybody. Yeah. Just nonsense. So it's just Putin just not fucking around. Yeah. NATO and EU leaders are openly considering going to war with Russia using Ukraine as the excuse. Given NATO's recent aggression towards China as well, we experience what would come as a catalyst for World War III. Man, it's just fucking, yeah, man. I know. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, this is a good video posted, Hendricks. Both of these were, this is a good talk. This guy, he's an Irishman in Moscow. I watched it this afternoon. But yeah, we're on the precipice of World War III. Roughly 20,000 or more troops assembled in Romania near Ukraine around the border. And then Russia gave its warning to NATO. But he was just kind of giving some insight from the inside and on the whole thing. That was a good little talk. But very, very unsettling stuff, I guess. I don't know. Who knows what's in our future? Maybe it will be nuclear annihilation. I don't know. Maybe the A's will step in. That's my hope. I mean, honest to Christ, when you see stuff like this, you see the way the economy's going, you see the way with these globalist fucking dickheads who are trying to take the world. We need some kind of intervention. We all need to pray to the A's. Literally. Maybe that's what'll stop this. If we all just sit in a circle, or even if everybody just asks for help. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's what they've been waiting for, is for that help to come, or that at least that ask. That, or we're going to end up like this, right? Well, that's the thing though, right? It depends what's at stake. It depends how interesting the ants are. I mean, I don't think... it's hard. Well, let me get into the nature of reality, like arguments around consciousness and whatnot. Ants are super... They are, you could say objectively, there are some interesting things about them. But it depends how many people ask for help, maybe. That's the thing. Where it's not like we're all up, the whole colony is wanting to fight. There's a small subsect of the colony that's co-opted everybody else that's going to start a fight and jeopardize the lives of everybody else. So we're all kind of I would say like 99.9999% of everyone doesn't want to get in any kind of conflict. They want to live in peace. It's a very small group of people that want this kind of conflict to happen. And so we're all kind of helpless here to whatever they're doing. Nothing that we do is going to make a difference. So that was where maybe they would consider doing something, and that we've just all been completely compromised by these people. So, but the other thing too, I mean, we might be more interesting. Maybe there's, I definitely am an advocate. There's we're probably living in a simulation. Maybe there's more to us. Consciousness isn't necessarily just a consequence of our physical brains, and that might play into why we're even more interesting to visitors, in that, you know, we might not be as advanced as them, but we're people tuning in here just like they are to this simulation. And coming across that might be very rare. I mean, you could come across planets with legitimate unconscious monkeys just slinging shit at each other, but we're conscious beings, and that consciousness might be a very rare thing to come upon. And so they might value that in and of itself, and maybe if enough people stepped up and said, we don't want this, they would at the very least try and intervene. Now, what would be really great, right? I could maybe not intervening to stop their bombs from dropping, but intervene to just, I don't know, shine the light on these idiots and wake people up. And I think just the whole UFO thing and exposing that whole story, because the story originates, some people believe, with them coming really in force after we started detonating nuclear weapons. So clearly there was a concern there, and that's a rumor that's pervaded throughout ufology, and you hear that in the abduction phenomena, even the contactees and whatnot, even though I think a lot of that's horse shit, but the abduction phenomena too, that was a serious concern. So maybe they would, I don't know. I ultimately, I don't know, but I just it's worth a shot maybe, because the other option is we all just fucking get annihilated. This was the bomb going off in Hiroshima, I think, which is very sad, honestly, kind of a depressing thing, but oh my god, look at that. It's just like a hellscape. Oh Jesus. It simply burns everything. Man. Look at this. Oh man. Everything dust. And now these are atomic weapons. We have hydrogen weapons now, which are even more destructive. Less radioactive, I guess. I didn't know that. But far more destructive. Man, I couldn't, there was that guy, people that don't know this, there was a guy that survived the bomb at Hiroshima, and then he went to, was it Nagasaki? Was the second one, right? He then went to Nagasaki after Hiroshima. He was a doctor, I think, and then he survived the second bomb at Nagasaki. He went through both bombings. Pretty crazy, the only two bombings ever, really, on a population in the world so far. So that'd be the way. That's the honorable way, though, droid. That's the honorable way to solve something. And these people are fucking cowards. Yeah. Man, just fucking the saddest thing. That right there. That is just how they slept at night after that. I don't know. Definitely killed Oppenheimer in the end, right? I think. Just absolutely fucking, yeah. What is this? Several nukes going off in France right now. Holy crap, you just memeing, Krieg League. Good Lord. Jesus, trying to create the hype. Very sad. There's 13,000. More than 2,000. And I mean, they would be they're astronomically more powerful than the bombs at Hiroshima too, which is what's even more fucking disturbing. So, yeah. Man. Fuck. Yeah. We just hope it doesn't come to that, Just have to have faith. Anyway, shifting gears. I don't know what this is about. Man, yeah. Nope, not going to stop quoting Tom DeLonge when it comes to UFO topic. I fucking would. Personally. Now, I've followed the UFO topic for a long time. Tom has his inside sources. Man, he said some dumb fucking shit on this topic. I don't know. It's again, like, knowledgeable guy, I think, on this. He has a lot of money and influence. He's famous. So I think a lot of these guys associate with him because, when Lou's book drops, man, it's going to be fucking fire. He's going to go promote that with Tom, and all the Blink fans are going to come out and buy that book. It's like there's always the ulterior motives here to make the fucking sale, right? So you can retire on the ranch in comfort. But yeah, just Lou endorsed Tom, and so should we. He said some stuff I just completely disagree with about the phenomena, that it's like all negative, and he's just had some bad takes.
Taboo, lot of stigma associated with it, and actually be able to have a conversation about it, a rational conversation.
Well, let me ask you, because
I don't know if it was Corbell, did you? I don't know if we ever figured that out exactly. I think the implication was, I think it may have been, but it may have also been Tom, possibly. Tom could be considered that. He was involved with some very sketchy people, like John Podesta. He was involved with a lot of intelligence people. He just kind of was a money guy at the whole To the Stars Academy, which kind of failed and flopped, I think. So it may be Tom.
People watching are way more interested in the guy that ran the government's UFO program than what Tom thinks about it. Let me ask you, intimately, and so much what you know is still classified that none of us can ever know, but the stigma attached to this because you dealt with it. How has it changed since all this, like, to you and to your because you're still so tied into the government with people and like,
sure.
How has it changed that you've seen?
Well, I will admittedly say I didn't change it. Actually, you're the guys that changed it, and that is I did this, and my colleagues and I did this day in, day out for damn near a decade, and we couldn't even get people in our own building to have a conversation. And that's why I said before, as a catalyst, people probably wondering how it is you could leave a successful business model behind and pursuing your dreams as a rock and roller for this. And had you not have done it this way, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. So don't look now, but we're having this conversation because of things like this, that you took the time to.
Sorry, this is his book, Secret Machines or something. I haven't read it, but interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm curious. Did anyone read it? I've heard excerpts from people who've read it. I don't know. I don't think there's anything like really revelatory in there. Honestly, I'm very pessimistic when it comes to some of these people in the community. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of faith in some of these people. I'm sure Lou clearly was involved in something very classified. Whether we ever get the truth out of any of these people or not, I don't know. I hope that somebody leaks something. That's honestly my hope. If we leave it up to the government, it's going to get lost and tied up in all this bureaucracy. We really want the truth to come out. Either we need a bunch of people leaking the information, all of it, or the phenomena itself enlightens everyone. Which would be really, really the way I think it should happen, is get the whole truth from the beings themselves. That would be the best way, right? The unfiltered truth, the whole thing, the whole history. Because the problem is this whole cover-up has pervaded beyond anyone who's alive today. So who is going to bring to us the entire story now, right? Unredacted, the whole truth. I don't know. It might have to be the beings themselves. But will we trust that information? I would welcome our alien overlords, so long as they're actually up there. These motherfuckers are still arguing about whether they're there or not. That's fucking. God damn it. Do the CE5, did you? You got to meditate. You got to channel your chi to the right fucking frequency. And then you have to reach out through the fucking ether, right? Just don't call the reptilians because they'll deceive you, right? They're going to try and sell you something. You're going to fucking get hooked up with them. And next thing you know, there's going to be 20 fucking slap chops at your fucking porch the next day, right? Credit card maxed out. Fuck. I shouldn't have called the reptilians, right? I thought they discontinued this shit. I got a bunch of knives. I don't need this. You got to reach out to the positive ones, right? The Pleiadians, the hot ones, right? That's hot, good, ugly, bad. That's the whole alien phenomena explained really simply for anybody that's new to it, all right? That's all you need to fucking know, all right? If they're hot, they're good. If they're ugly, they're bad. Simple formula to follow. More complicated formula here from Merrick. Why is gimbal so important? It is remarkably compelling evidence of highly anomalous technology. 3D models confirm aviator accounts. If I can say the word fucking aviator. Video evidence confirms the 3D models. Everything aligns. No need for countless simultaneous low probability malfunctions in coincidences. So this is a 3D model here. You can see this is from the perspective looking at the aircraft. As the object turns, this is the disc that was reported by the pilots, and there it is matching up. And this is in contrast to Mick West's interpretation, idiotic interpretation at times, honestly, literally, that this is just a series of glitches, and what they actually saw was a plane. I don't even want to fucking cover that. It's so dumb. Everything aligns except when it doesn't. The turn you show aligns a lot better at 10 nm where you say it can't be. It also all aligns really well with a distant plane moving in a straight line. No need for highly anomalous maneuvering or anti-gravity. Now, what's wrong with that statement? There's a couple things wrong with that fucking statement. No need for highly anomalous maneuvering or anti-gravity. What you will have the need for, though, is a bunch of other abnormalities and anomalies in these sensors, right? And not just that, you're going to need anomalies in the pilot's perception of the object, right? And now we don't have the radar data, but the radar data supposedly supports this as an anomalous object as well. So you're going to have an entire scenario where everything and everyone goes catastrophically wrong and misinterprets everything to support your fucking hypothesis. The other option is everything lined up, and this is what it actually is. We can do this in everything, though. This is a problem. You can pick apart literally anything to this degree and create some crazy scenario that you can do any portion of reality as well. You can do with this. You can drive yourself insane actually doing this. Now, I agree we should be digging into this and trying to find every angle we possibly can, which if Mick was coming at it from that perspective, I would get. He would say, well, have you rolled this out? Have you rolled this out? Have you rolled this out? But the problem is he's coming at it from this angle of like, it's probably a plane. I've figured it out. It's like, bro, no. That's fucking, there's something psychologically wrong here, right? Like, no, you haven't figured it out. This isn't probably a plane, right? Now, is this definitively an anomalous object? The data suggests that. Could the data be wrong? Potentially, what has to be wrong for the data to be wrong? How many sensors have to be at a whack? How many of them have to fail, have anomalies? You know, I think there were multiple eyewitnesses on this object as well as radar data supposedly that confirmed it. So the scenario you're getting into, you're creating, it's just a massive fallacy. Anyway, I've gone over this already in the past. Is this what you're referring to? If so, there's absolutely no match here. The rotation is well out to the apex of the turn. Perhaps we need another discussion to sort this out because I do not understand why you posted this. because he's desperately trying to cling on to his explanation because he convinced a bunch of people that he knew what he was talking about when in actual fact he didn't. And he's arguing from this fucking dogmatism, right? This dogmatic belief system that the whole thing is just a delusion. So therefore this object can't be real. It has to be some crazy anomalous plane, because if it's not, I'm wrong. And it's ego as well. And that's a problem here. And the talk about ego before getting in the way of actually getting to the truth of things. Oh, God. So, and for anyone that didn't, it's called a drone in a banking maneuver. That's Mike Barrett from Ancient Aliens there. Excellent. Where was the fucking... Hold on. I got to... Oh, so they get into a big fucking argument on it. Yeah. And I thought this was... You can just to highlight the depth this guy goes into to try and explain all this. It's finally somebody coming to this and properly explaining it. When this initially happened, I know there were people who were just all on board that, oh, Mick figured it out. But Mick has a track record of claiming he's figured things out when in actual fact he's well in and over his head and what he can understand with this kind of stuff. And again, he's arguing from this dogmatic perspective. I mean, I ultimately don't know what this object, even if it is this, we don't know what this is really. Is it a galactic Federation of Light officership? I don't fucking know. I have no idea, really. It's just anomalous. If I were to bet what is it, well, you know, anyone who goes out in the starry night can probably surmise that there's probably other planets out there with life. So, you know, maybe they're here. And if you actually go through our history too, and you're not a fucking idiot, there's some very interesting encounters a lot of ancient cultures had with some very interesting beings. And they kind of mimic the abduction phenomena, almost to a T in some cases. So maybe have always been here as well. He's mentally ill narcissist and moronic arsehole. He's definitely got something else psychologically going on here. I would absolutely say that much. Just observing him. Now, there's elements, I think, of his analysis that, you know, he's in depth with it. He knows how to use some of these programs. But yeah, there's something else going on here. And I can't quite pin it down. I thought there's definitely something psychologically going on. And the debate he had with Merrick, which we watched a bit of, he started the debate off saying it's probably a plane. That was already an issue, because there was really, in his mind, there was evidence to suggest that, but objectively there isn't really. There is just evidence to suggest that it's some kind of an anomaly, serious anomaly. And Merrick is arguing, and I think he argued fairly well, that the data is not faulty and it is depicting something truly anomalous, which then you can get off into, you know, speculating on, well, then what is this craft? Where is it from? Is it using some kind of advanced technology? Interesting stuff. When did they show taking off, or when they lost sight of it? That's a good question, wondering. There was only so much of the clip that got released, I guess. And the radar data was never released either. Now, with some of these sightings, are we getting any closer? Drunk Physics, welcome, bro. Not really, no. Well, actually, that's not true. In regards to the gimbal footage, Merrick's debate with Mick pretty much settled Mick's argument being bullshit, but a lot of people had called out inconsistencies in his argument already. So we already knew that this wasn't a bunch of sensors failing at once, that this was more than likely an anomalous object, hence why the Navy ended up confirming the video footage and confirming that it was in fact an anomalous sighting. Right, they would have had their team of people, one of the guys is being, I believe, Merrick, or might be Merrick's friend actually in the end that did this. It worked on the gimbal system that confirmed it was truly anomalous. But if we had the radar data, we would know for sure. That's the big point of frustration here that they, in regards to the Tic Tac sighting with Fravor back in 2004, I don't know if they would have radar. They probably do. Supposedly it was confiscated according to Dave Fravor. But the gimbal footage, they 100% have radar data of this object. So they had tracked these objects sitting for like 12 hours out over the water in like high winds, not moving, which is impossible. And then zipping off randomly. So if they released that data, it would settle the debate instantly. And we would know for sure that these things are some kind of anomalous crafts or objects, UAPs. But we don't have that data. So then we're just kind of left fighting with Mick. Like, are these just seagulls in the distance at some awkward angle? And here's 30 anomalies that could account for potentially why this isn't in fact a seagull. Yes, I did, Drunk. We watched it last night, actually. Was that the one, where she was talking about... she was talking about Matt Gaetz and going to, was it Eglin Air Force Base? And the whole deal there about trying to get through to the base commander and whatnot. And yeah, we watched that. I think it was last night, even on Thursday. Yeah, well, I mean, interesting. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what comes of the next set of hearings. I'm just not really... We just need the first-hand witnesses to come forward. We need some kind of catastrophic disclosure, yeah. She did, yeah. And I'm assuming due to some of the... Well, they just had that hearing with... there was a hearing with... who was it? It was Lou. It was Lou Elizondo. They had a hearing with him. And he brought forward some people as well that work from the inside. So I think they probably have a pretty good idea what's going on now. So, yes, she did, yeah, Hendricks, yeah. Which is interesting. She reiterated in that interview that she's of her Christian faith, and should we tell her that Jesus was a star child and that he was artificially inseminated into Mary to live his star child life for the aliens? Would that shake up her belief? You've been believing them the whole time. No. Yeah, my faith, I think, is I've reiterated here, my faith is not in the system. I don't have a lot of faith that there's going to be anything really revelatory coming out that's going to blow our minds. I hope it does. You know, Ross Coulthard brought Dave out to us, and that was really great. And that kind of set a precedent. But I really think going forward, we're just going to need somebody to kick it wide open. I'm never going to be satisfied with crumbs. I've been eating the crumbs off the floor since I was a little boy. And I'm done eating the crumbs. I want the fucking cake. That's what I want. I want the whole cake. I don't want a little piece of it, right? I want the whole cake. We need the whole cake. There's other threats present here right now, I think, that warrant the whole cake coming out. So however we get to that, whether that's through remote viewing or that's through doing Stephen Greer's CE5, which is more woo. However we get to that, whether it's through contacting the beings, because again, as crazy as that sounds, if they're actually here, and if there's anything to the abduction accounts of them interacting with people and the way they're interacting with them, maybe it is as simple as just putting the thought out there of wanting to communicate with them. I mean, you know, it was only a couple decades ago where if you told someone that you could FaceTime someone instantly in China, they think you're fucking insane. And here we are, we're doing this, instantly communicating with people, video, audio, around the world. These beings, if they're far more advanced than us, this force, if it's far more advanced than us, maybe that's all it takes to communicate with it. And so if that's the case, maybe there's something to Stephen's whole CE5, which again, he didn't create. He just took from other people in the abduction phenomena, encountering these beings and them telling him essentially how to reach out to them. So maybe that's all it takes to move humanity forward and get the truth out. And maybe that's all it takes is something like that. And that, honestly, that would be the best way to reach out to them. I guess, I mean, I just don't fucking trust people sometimes. There's so many ulterior motives. There's so many, like, people that maybe start off with on the right foot here, and I've seen this so many times, and then it's like, yeah, that next part though, that's in my book that's dropping next October, right? Pick up the audiobook, pick up the hardcover, right? I'll be on Good Morning America. All the secrets are going to be in there. $60.99, right? Big fat price tag on it. And it's like, oh fuck, man. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's like what's at stake here? Right? So I just get very pessimistic, I guess. C. Greenstreet tried to shame her for being a former stripper. Was she a former stripper? Actually? Was she actually a former stripper? Oh, I didn't know that. They have always been there. They walk among us. They run our government? Hopefully not. I didn't know. I'm not going to look that up here because that was not something I can look up. I didn't know that. Interesting. Is this I'm not a Representative Luna fan, but Greenstreet is just shameful. He just helped objectify women expressing themselves in his Hot Chicks of Occupy Wall Street docu. He's trying to shame Luna and disqualify her opinion. What's it saying? Margaritas made me do it. Is that just like a photo shoot though she did or something? Representative Anna Paulina Luna is spending tax. She was in the military though, wasn't she? She was like in the Air Force. Spending taxpayer resources to hunt for UFOs and interdimensional beings. I would call them aliens, she says. I share a Christian perspective. I wouldn't call them aliens. She likes interdimensionals. I share a Christian perspective. Does that imply demons? Because I hope not. She's not alone. Representative Eric Burlinson, one of Luna's saucer-chasing partners in, I'm assuming, crime. I absolutely believe there are advanced technologies not of human origin. I wouldn't call them aliens. Now, I mean, this guy's a fucking idiot. See, he's got a pig beside his name. So how he got that was he was fighting with the guy who owns Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon Fugel. And he was fighting with him on Twitter. And Brandon referred to him as a pig. And he says, I don't wrestle with pigs and filth or something. It was like a really strange way to, and so anyway, he now identifies himself as a pig. That one was a bit of a meme, actually. Yeah, the whole Skinwalker Ranch thing's obviously like fucking. Anyway, this is a little bit different. I mean, Anna Paulina Luna sat in on some classified conversations, so I mean, I wouldn't be going in thinking that she isn't saying that from a place of knowledge. I think she's been fairly enlightened at this point. I think Stephen, for the most part, is just like a dink. So, yeah. The Simpsons hinted that both parties are aliens in Greenhouse of Horrors, Treehouse of Horrors. Oh, they did, didn't they? The Simpsons are always true, aren't they, Droid Hustler? They always turn out to be true, those Simpsons predictions. Yeah. She apparently worked at a gents club. She was military with a bunch of candid shots of her on the net. Oh, Lord. Well, whatever. I mean, you move up in the world. I mean, she seems like a fairly well-spoken person, so whatever. That doesn't really... She seems to have been very involved in the phenomena. Whatever raises awareness, right? And mortgage identifies as a student loan. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, man. The grounding effect. Hell yeah, brother. Interesting. Well, what else did I have up here? Oh, the number of UAP is apparently huge, and that is something that the government has. The best way I can say about it is downplayed, if not kept from the public for a long time. That's Senator Hawley on UFO sightings. Yeah. Well, and Stephen Greenstreet said he used to work for the Pentagon or something. So, is he like fucking government agent? No, I don't think so. Just an idiot on the internet. All kinds of it there. All kinds of people. All kinds of idiots on the internet. But, yeah, I don't know. You know. Oh, it's from last June. Oh, he's just reposting it. Oh, there's Mick West. Sure, it's a huge number if you include all balloons. How many genuine anomalies are there? Any? This fucking guy, man. Any? No, they're all made up, Mick. It's all a big hallucination. And Mick, you're still dreaming. Wake up. Wake up. You're still dreaming. You just gotta wake up. Just gotta wake up. Jesus Christ. He's still on the boat going to, is it Balmora? You end up in the first city? No, fuck. Is it Satanine in Morrowind you go to? He's still on the boat. He hasn't woken up yet. Oh, fuck. Anyway, it's just nonsense, man. Christ. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, though. That's a good question. You know, why now? What's he trying to say? I mean, wasn't Dave Grush supposed to put out some fucking, like, op-ed or some shit? Wasn't he supposed to put out some new release of information? I guess one day we might just wake up and it'll be out on the web. Actually, he's trending there right now. Just nothing really. Soul Foundation. There's the interview with Luna we watched. Eric Weinstein, UFO whistleblower David Grush. Okay. We can call David up right now, and I promise you he's not going to back this madness and stupidity. What? What is this? I have a clip queued up with Eric here, actually, afterwards. Yeah, stops for clearance. Oh, is that what's going on?
Please never say these words. Hey, look, the interdimensional space beings. David Grush didn't say extraterrestrial, he said interdimensional.
Yes, but Eric and David talk, and this is not fair to David Grush. David Grush knows that he's a physics BA. He knows he's not a PhD. He's repeating things that have been said to him. He had the presence of mind to try to give an example of what interdimensional might mean, and he used holography. And so as a result, everyone's making, David Grush says holographic interdimensional beings. This is absurd, and it's not fair to David Grush. I'm telling you, I mean, we can call David up right now, and I promise you he's not going to back this madness and stupidity.
So what's going on with this most recent update about aliens?
Which one?
Well, I saw this frustration that lawmakers had because they were getting compartmentalized. If you don't ask precisely the right person, precisely the right question in precisely the right way, you're not allowed to get an answer. You don't get an answer.
But you couldn't even... Look, if you don't know what a Riemannian manifold is, if you don't know what a determinant line bundle is, there's no way you can ask intelligent questions about alien visitation.
That's a bit of a good point that Eric's making, in that those are extremely complicated concepts to do with physics and mathematics. You don't agree here? I guess maybe what he's trying to say is that if you can't understand the upper end of our mathematics and physics, then how are we going to be able to grasp this force that is inevitably going to be astronomically beyond us? That's what he's trying to say, that we're contending with something that's very difficult. That's true though, Drunk. Yeah, you can't ask physics. Yeah, there you go. That's true. Yeah, you can't ask physics questions. Yeah, so maybe in regards to Grush, but there are other questions about the phenomena that you can ask that don't necessarily have to do with the discipline of mathematics and physics. You can ask broader questions. You can ask philosophical questions, right? Psychological questions, right? People in the abduction phenomena. Are these people just hallucinating? Are these just hallucinations and dreams? But I get maybe what he's trying to say here, that you should at least be able to, contend with some of those questions if you're going to be if you're getting into that kind of talk. It's kind of, I guess to him it sounds like nonsense because there's no reference point. Yeah. He assumes he can ask them. That's true though. Which if they were sufficiently advanced, he wouldn't understand anyway. Meaningless point. That's a good point too, actually. That's a good point. That there's a bit of hubris in there, maybe. Huh? Little bit of arrogance, thinking that I can contend with it. Maybe it's simpler than we think. Maybe we're off on a tangent in some way. Who knows? I think Eric's pretty transparent that he has no fucking idea. I mean, Eric doesn't have any idea about the history of ufology either. He was convinced as well that it was all horseshit. And again, I don't know what the percentage of it would be, but if you took the entire thing, like alien fucking, souvenir shops and all of it together, you could probably argue that like 95% of it is bullshit. But there's that like 5% that you sift through and open up, and it's a lot of information that is absolutely not bullshit. And again, some of it's sitting out fairly obviously. I shouldn't say it's obvious, but it's been sitting out in the open for decades. Some of the encounters, some of the individuals, some of the eyewitness testimony. I mean, Ed Mitchell. I mean, if Eric never heard Ed Mitchell, who was a PhD, he's a scientist, I think he was a chemist, an astronaut, I don't know what man he was on the moon, he was one of the 6th or 7th or something, he had stated pretty blatantly that there were these black programs and they had these crafts recovered. And he kind of had his balls dragged through the glass, too, by NASA. And so there was some very accredited people involved with this. It was no joke. It's just, I think Eric was stuck in his little bubble, and he wasn't really aware of what was going on. Even the Phobos thing, I bring up that all the fucking time because I keep bringing it up because it's just something that it's one of those incidents. Like, how do you hide something really? And you just stop talking about it. You can hide it in plain sight, right? It's out there to find. You just don't talk about it. You don't acknowledge it. You just ignore it, right? And that is one of those ones where I was like, man, and we don't have the data, which is problematic, but they would have the data with that incident. The Soviets had it, but the Soviets were working with the European Space Agency and NASA, so I think they all were involved in that mission. Fuck, that's just one of those incidents that if you want to get an idea that there's something actually that's going to, and there's a real picture from the probe that it took of the object that shot the fucking craft down, and it's identical to the anomaly that was showing up in the surface of Mars, a large elongated cylindrical looking shadow stalking the probe. So I mean, it's now the news footage documenting is not well known. It's a bit obscure, but anyone looking for that, you can go to the Forbidden Knowledge channel in the Discord, go to Pinned, and there's a Zechariah Sitchin documentary towards the end. You can find the whole thing documented. So yeah, that seems to fuck with Green Street a bit. Hope he drops something good. Let's see. Who thinks I should follow advice and drop some truth bombs about Steven that he would rather not see? It's my duty, right? People are indeed free to believe and think what they want, but it's my job and duty to the public to report the truth. Interesting. Uh-oh. These boys all getting into the fucking drama. Oh my god. Is he gonna out him for being like a furry or something? Like he's gonna go to the fucking furry conference, and I think, didn't that already happen? I don't know how I even fucking know that. I shouldn't fucking know that. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Has the Hill stopped covering UFOs? I don't know. Have they stopped? I haven't seen any videos from them recently. I mean, if there's any new information on them, then maybe. Here's a tweet referring to the Liberation article in Dopser. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Hendricks. 3 things from the Sharp article, my comments in. That included David Grush, whose own upcoming op-ed regarding UAP has been delayed. Oh, by Dopser. The office has not finished his review of the draft he submitted 2 months ago. Oh, he did submit it 2 months ago. That's fucking annoying. Oh, what was this from? Oh, this is just recently. Oh shit, this is just today. Oh, well, there you go. Wow. Who knows? You know, furries, fella. Well, advocating in the Congress remain determined to continue to push forward. This comes amidst increasing concern. China could potentially be the first to disclose the existence of non-human intelligence. Imagine Xi Jinping fucking telling everybody UFO's real. God damn it. He said he'll tell everybody, don't you dare try and talk to them, or we'll put your fucking social credit rating to 0. Now, wouldn't that depending on the orientation of the visitors, that would be that those people need some serious fucking help in China right now. That's a fucking fucked up situation there. So if there's anybody that needs liberating, that's our space brothers can maybe hit that up first. We're not in as much danger as those poor people there. Yeah. Coming this fall, no talking to aliens. Yeah, exactly. I talked about that initially, I guess, here, but that's our own problem. Yeah, in fucking Canada right now. Fucking idiot Trudeau. Fuck that idiot. Oh, did I already finish? Oops. There we go. My lo-fi beats are. There we go. Yes. Grammaton clerics right here. Fuck, man. Yeah, I just want to play this. This is a whole conversation we just kind of watched.
Somehow channel the technology of interdimensional space beings.
So sorry, this is the beginning of the clip.
Please never say those words.
Hey, look, the interdimensional
space
beings. David Koresh didn't say extraterrestrial.
We're going to skip ahead from what he said here.
Frustration that lawmakers had because they were getting compartmentalized. If you don't ask precisely the right person, precisely the right question, in precisely the right way, you're not allowed to get an answer. You don't get an answer.
But you couldn't even... Look, if you don't know what a Riemannian manifold is, if you don't know what a determinant line bundle is, there's no way you can ask intelligent questions about alien visitation.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid. I didn't hear that.
How did they get here? There are no scientists.
Maybe just to do with physics.
There are no relevant scientists in the story. Does anybody find that at all odd? Even the situation with David Grush is fantastic. He goes into a hearing. He says a bunch of completely batshit crazy stuff, right? Can we agree on that? All right. And then weeks later, some representatives go into a skiff and they say, well, it certainly seems like it confirms some of what Grush has been telling us. And you're thinking, okay, so you've separated the confirmation, which you did abstractly because it was inside of a skiff, but you can only talk to people who've emerged from the skiff who are willing to say vague things, and the crazy claims. Now, what is this really all about? Nobody knows. Now, what I've been saying for about 4 years is there's way more to this story than I had understood. I thought UFOs were total nonsense. I thought this was a waste of time. And I was wrong. I was just wrong.
Why?
What do you mean?
In what ways were you wrong? Why are you now convinced in a way that you weren't previously?
Well, I didn't know. Yeah, I'm not convinced that UFOs, like shiny metal craft, are real at all. What I didn't know is that there almost certainly are large programs inside the federal government that are denied, that are labeled UFO, shh, don't tell anyone. Now, whether those programs contain anything about non-human intelligence or aliens or spacecraft or anything like that is anyone's guess, because I haven't seen anything. However, the programs almost certainly exist.
What gives you that impression?
Talking to 4 million people who tell stunningly similar stories.
Yeah, but to that point, there's some fairly accredited people who have talked to a lot of other intelligent people they confirmed were of sound mind that had experiences that all seemed very similar talking with visitors. So, I mean, it's like, where do we want to go with this exactly? I mean, Eric's just personally, he's saying, I haven't seen any crafts, or I haven't seen the evidence to show that these metal discs exist. There's a lot of photographic evidence. We covered this here before. That's very compelling. That seems to suggest that these objects are flying around up there. There's a fairly big laundry list now, honestly, of photographs that suggests that, I guess. So that doesn't confirm it, but again, it's big coincidence that shows up all over the place. There's a lot of potential legitimate photos showing pretty much the same objects all over the planet. Like,
in other words, there is a weirdness. And the weirdness is tremendous circumstantial evidence that these programs have existed for a long time and have involved extraordinary, in particular, physicists way back in the day. And on the other hand, that there's no credible proof that there are craft or aliens or anything like that.
How do you square that circle? How would
I can't. Look,
the coordination problem of all of these people is immense.
there's that, but secrets have been kept much more effectively than people imagine.
Say more.
I don't want to.
At Eastern College, we're here for what
Oh
comes
my.
next. Find out more at
Fucking
easterncollege.ca.
No, but I mean that. There are organizations that you cannot Google. There are organizations that have clubhouses and members that you cannot Google. So I know that secrets are durable. What we don't know is what these secrets are about. See, let's create a decision tree, which is there are little green men, shiny spacecrafts, and all this kind of cool stuff, and there aren't. Okay? If there aren't, what's the best explanation for why there's so much energy and activity and so many claims around this? And I would guess, and again, this is a guess and not a particularly good one, that there was a clearinghouse program for everything under the sun. If we needed to retrieve somebody else's plane behind enemy lines, we had a UFO cover story. If we were trying out new aerospace equipment, we had a UFO cover story. If we were trying to get our rivals to misspend their precious treasure on weaponry and strategic countermeasures, we had a UFO cover story. If we were up to no good, we had a UFO cover story. Whatever all these things are, imagine there was a kitchen sink approach, and that's what UFOs are all about. It's about a black SAP, special access program, as waved and bigoted as it could possibly be, that basically was a one-size-fits-all story for all sorts of things.
An extraterrestrial scapegoat.
Yeah, an extraterrestrial scapegoat program. Okay? Now, whatever that is, if you imagine that leg of the decision tree is real, it's all very funny, because now you're like, all these people have taken it seriously, but it was the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians who were supposed to take it seriously. Like, ixnay on the UFO fay, you know? It's like people are going to blow this beautiful cover story that we've created for everything. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is that we're on the other leg of the decision tree and that we have no programming for it, and so everything about it seems impossible. What's what you said about physics? Physics is science fiction. The physics that you just learned is almost always about science fiction. What if you have multiple time dimensions and people can circle around in time, and if you find out about them, they can circle back to the point where you didn't know it? You have a neuralizer built into the successor to space-time. Is that real? I don't know. All I know is that physics will always blow your mind. It will always do something that seems impossible, and that's why it's the coolest subject around. Now, I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you that the circumstantial evidence that there's been a program that has been long-running and involved very high-level people, it's almost impossible to imagine that this is fake. There's a 1971 Australian document from the Australian Intelligence Service that has been declassified and made public, which clears up all sorts of mysteries about what was going on with physics in the 1950s and 60s. And it names names. It says that Freeman Dyson, John Archibald Wheeler, Pascal Jordan the Nazi, all of these people were working on anti-gravity. And the only reason to be working on anti-gravity is that there was reason to think that something had gone beyond Einsteinian relativity.
in, this is the hard evidence in the documents we're looking for as well, but kind of in regards to like the gimbal footage as well, we can't ignore the human element of it as well, the eyewitness testimony. And there have been, again, far too many people of sound mind that have seen these objects over the years, and not from like an extreme distance, like a blurry, like, oh, I saw some light moving really fast. And it's like up close and personal encounters with objects that just, it's far too corroborative. There's far too much of it. And again, we need another discipline to really dig in and study this, like people in psychology, psychiatry. Some have, like John Mack, and others, not just John Mack. Others have come after John Mack and carried in his legacy. But he's the most prominent one. It's far too pervasive. I think it points in that direction pretty obviously when you look at the data. It's just, for whatever reason, there was this dogma around digging into it. And people are kind of just, there's a lot of people who are just very late to the party too. And have seriously underestimated the amount of data involved in ufology. And I just are slowly trying to digest it all. But it's a lot to take in. I mean, it's kind of its own. It's its own folklore. I mean, we need what you really need is somebody. Sorry, my mic. Like a fucking folklorist is what they call them. But someone who studies folklore in depth and who collects all these stories. It's just so vast. It's so vast. There are people who are doing their PhDs in folklore specifically on ufology now. Like, that's how extensive the whole thing is. It's been going on since, well, officially since the late 1940s.
In other words, mostly we learn about physics from colliding. It's like breaking rocks together. You're going to smash two rocks and then maybe you'll see a little spark and you'll study that. Except we do it with protons. This would be like some different thing where there was a more advanced species and you're
that's true, man.
looking at its machinery to try to figure out, well, what science does it know that you don't?
How much truth do you think is in that? I've seen rumors on the internet of leaps forward in technology throughout the mid-1900s that people suggested was due to reverse engineering of something that had been discovered. Do you think that the technology movements that we made through the 1900s were self-created?
Look, I'm not clever enough to solve the UFO puzzle. There's almost no topic where I can't generate multiple explanations. This is the only topic I've ever met where I can't generate a single explanation for what the hell's going on.
Hold on. Because you don't know it, Eric. Oops. We'll go back to
Unless
this.
we can...
Oh, you fuckers. Secrets are durable. I'm not clever enough. Because he doesn't know it still. That's the problem. I mean, your brain can only hold so much information, right? That's the thing. That's another thing. I mean, that's why we don't have one person who's a specialist in everything. We have people who specialize in other areas, and then we all come together, and that's what makes the world great, because we're all different, and we all figure different parts of this giant puzzle we're living in together. So you have people like Eric who are experts in mathematics, and he dabbles in physics. But this isn't necessarily, I think, something that he doesn't have that knowledge base in it. And there's like a folklore aspect to it that I'm not an expert in either, to be completely honest. There are people that are far more knowledgeable than myself on the history of ufology and all the intricate stories. My thing was in fucking Mike. There we go. Was in his philosophy, but I came at it from that perspective, asking those kinds of philosophical questions and metaphysical questions and all the wooey type kind of stuff that goes on with the phenomena affecting people's consciousness. That's something that always confounded me, and I thought that was very interesting. The abduction phenomena in particular, but it's defer to people that know more about the subject, I guess. And then if there are technical questions, Eric can come in. But what's frustrating, I think, for him is that he doesn't really have an ability to step into it necessarily, because we can't get to anybody that, if they have the crafts, which I don't know if we're completely convicted that they do, although Grush claims that they do, that he can really step in and start to wrap his head around and start to theorize, okay, well then this is how it could be working, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll continue.
I've ever met where I can't generate a single explanation for what the hell's going on. Nothing I can think up makes sense. Look, I'm very focused on this because if there are aliens here, I might be the only guy who knows how they're here.
How so?
I don't think it's practical to traverse the cosmos using general relativity in the standard model. You can use time dilation, you can hope for wormholes, you can imagine generation ships. There's a whole bunch of stupid stuff that people talk about when they talk about interdimensional travel and all this kind of nonsense. Why? Because they can see the night sky and they can't get there. So you think, okay, in terms of the science that I've seen Carl Sagan discussing, or on Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson, how would I get to a distant planet using the science I know? And then you have to sort of do it with masking tape and, chicken wire, whatever. Whatever that is, doesn't really appeal to me. They're not here if they're here using standard physics. Now, I've tried to make a list of everyone on Earth who has a distinct theory of physics. Right? So you have, Julian Barbour has a theory, or Stephen Wolfram has a theory, or Peter Woit has a theory. So I go through all of these other theories, and to the best of my knowledge, nobody else does that. Like, we've stopped talking to each other, we've stopped thinking about this. So in the world of theories about how something might be here, there are very few theories of the universe. And why is that? It's because the constraints are so...
Is that the 200 IQ guy, did she? And that guy seemed like such a dick. I saw the video interview with him. He seemed like such a dick. The bouncer. Fuck.
Profound. There's no room to move, to imagine, to let human creativity take over. We're in a straitjacket that is so tight nobody can think. And we're there because our theories are so good. The standard model and general relativity are astounding theories, but they're also a straitjacket. So I'm very interested in, if you're Obama, you just reach out, grab it and kill it.
Whip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm very interested in this topic specifically because the universe is either traversable or it isn't. And if it is, it's not surprising that anyone's here. And if it isn't, we die here in short order.
And I think we know. So I think we know the latter isn't the case, right? If we're going to bet, right? Again, it's how complicated is everything. I'm betting on some kind of simulation theory. So then maybe at some point there's some kind of design there that we're able to explore. Hopefully that's the case. And again, when you look at all the anecdotal evidence, the entire phenomena, none of it's concrete, but I think the amount of it definitely starts to lead one to think that it warrants further inquiry. And I guess people that aren't familiar with all this stuff just have no basis for that. But there's far too many cases for me that I just, it's one of those things. Again, some people will say, well, I believe, and it's like, well, don't know if it's necessarily something I believe in, but it's something that I would bet. If I were to bet, I would bet that, yeah, absolutely, we've got a whole, and this is the thing too with this phenomena. It's not just like a couple little green men from Mars. It's like It's well beyond that. It's very strange. Potentially. I would bet we're in the middle of a fucking intergalactic superhighway. And again, we're just like the monkeys in the jungle, just coming out of the jungle. And we have just no fucking idea that there's a highway right there, right? We had no idea. Like, we're just becoming conscious enough to realize, oh, that's a road. Oh, and those are more advanced people using the road to get somewhere. Oh, and our little hut is like right in the middle of the road. That's what I would bet, personally. But again, it's just a bet. But yeah,
it's a hugely consequential question.
In other news, this episode is...
Oh, well, I like stopped it at the right time because now I have to watch the fucking ad. Yeah. Again, Eric, it'd be great they find the fucking craft. They got locked up somewhere. Maybe they find Bob Lazar's fucking lab partner, Barry. They can throw Barry at Eric and say, yeah, this is what we know, and you're fucking wrong. Maybe that's I do have a hard time with that one, though, personally, that we have scientists that have been working internally on these projects and they've like figured out a new physics. It's just that seems very, I don't know. I've just a hard time believing it. I don't know. It could very well be the case. It's just something for me. I don't know. My own intuition is a hard time with that. Maybe it's that we have these things and we just have not fucking figured them out at all. Now, on that point, Bob Lazar is a very controversial character, as is his story. But George Knapp, as someone who got involved with Bob through John Lear and other people who were involved in the military intelligence industrial complex, had heard that the program he was on got shelved after he left, and that they hadn't picked it back up, and that effectively they never found out anything. So Eric's theory was that they got together all of these experts after Roswell, and they were trying to figure out anti-gravity because that's what they were convinced these crafts were employing to travel around, which lines up with Bob Lazar's story, actually. Although he probably wasn't, as he admitted, qualified enough to really understand the deep physics involved with how the craft actually functioned. But, whether they actually figured anything out is another question. Whether we actually moved forward on anything is another question. Now, we got like the Stephen Greers, which, again, is fucking just con men out there pushing that there's this sect of people that are living on the moon and they've figured out UFOs, and it's like, I just think that's horseshit. If I would be surprised if we figured fuck all out, and however we got a hold of these craft, right? Whether it was from picking up wrecks or it was from an agreement that was made, right? A little Christmas gift given to us, that it would be so far beyond us that we just wouldn't have any fucking clue what the fuck was going on. And I think Bob's analogy with the nuclear reactor back in nuclear reactor back in Victorian times was a good one. In that they've no clue what the fuck is going on. They start pulling the shielding off and then they all start dropping dead, right? And hopefully that's not what's actually happening if we have these crafts, that this is some kind of like cruel trick where we've got, what did Bob use? Some kind of, in Bob's story, there was some kind of antimatter reactor, and he did some calculations on the explosion of an antimatter bomb, and the amount of area it would decimate if it went off. And then he was saying that they employ some kind of antimatter reactor in these crafts. It's like, hopefully that's not what got dropped off to the States, and one day there's just boom, whole Western fucking hemisphere there. If I hold the Western continent of North America is gone. A little alien trick, right? Once we pulled the shielding off enough, once we got frustrated enough, we just take everybody out. Some kind of cruel trick. God damn it. Well, fuck. We'll have to just wait and see. This is a waiting game that's frustrating though with all this. And I come on here and I meme on this shit and I talk about it all the fucking time. There is no end of there's an endless amount of stuff to cover and meme on, but like current news with this, it's definitely we're just waiting for something else to happen, I guess. We're waiting for something. What do I feel, I guess? I'm not alone. Everybody else is on the same planet here, so I don't know what everyone else feels in regards to this. I feel like this whole campaign to get this phenomenon disclosed from the government is going to fail. I think it's going to fail dramatically. I don't know how, but I just don't feel that it's going to work. Now, with that said, I do feel that something is coming. And I don't know what that is. Now, that can just be general anxiety, which is quite possible. You spend enough time on Twitter nowadays, like probably 20 minutes, and you're probably going to have fucking anxiety. But I do feel like something is coming. Panic in the elite. Definite panic in the elite. There's something on the horizon here. And that's just my own intuition. And I think it has something to do with this phenomena as well. And I hope it doesn't end up being some Deus Deceptor scenario. What actually I've gone over before. Where they have been engaged in some kind of deception. And that deception ends up causing an issue. But I guess ultimately time will tell. I kind of felt like it was a distraction, but it definitely did open a lot more eyes. It did. It brought more people to it. Or drinker, yeah. It brought a lot of people, it seems like in academia, who were kind of hesitant to broach the subject. I think it made it much more real, which is good. It made it more real for everybody too, to be completely. Now, I mean, over the years, just from me listening to more accredited people. Again, I bring up Ed Mitchell, but there's tons of highly accredited people that have spoken out on this. So, for people that like were involved with it and saw that, I was fairly convicted that there was something serious that had gone on anyway. But it definitely solidified that feeling for me too. The blue check mark down. Fuck yeah, down the rabbit hole with the blue check mark. Yeah, but. Time will tell. Time will tell what happens. I hope for something catastrophic happening in regards to disclosure. I think personally that's the only way. The system in and of itself, I think, is too broken too. It's sadly, I have no faith in the system in the West. I have no faith that at some point there's going to be some general catastrophe with the Western governments. So. Hoping that through that mess we get answers about aliens. I don't know. But that doesn't mean that the aliens might not do something. So that's the rogue element here. So whenever we're growing up with the government is telling us something that seems out of this world, it usually is to distract. Yeah. Could very well be the case, man. Yeah. So just cross our fingers. Do some CE5. Don't buy Stephen Greer's fucking books. Just go out. Just try and reach out. See what happens. Maybe that's all it takes. Just put your energy out there. And maybe you have a dream and you'll be on a spaceship. And maybe that's all that will happen. But listen. Be a good dream. But until then, maybe we'll see each other in a dream if we do that. Tonight we'll all get picked up. We'll all be together on a ship. And you'll see me there. I'll be there like tied up, fucking like against my will, just you'd be like, oh my God, it'd be a fucking nightmare. Wrong aliens picked us up again. Fuck, right? All my fault. And now I'm being made an example of. That'd be fun. Anyway, maybe that'll happen. Yeah. What are they doing? Yeah, that'll be it. I'll see everybody there tonight. Until next time, everybody. Sweet dreams.
streaming through the digital night. Jim Muscle, he's guiding the light, unveiling mysteries of the unknown. UFOs in the alien zone. He's a man on a mission, exploring ancient secrets. It's his addiction. Debating, discussing with his loyal crew. Cosmic conversations, unveiling the truth.